Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylee and today we're back on my island Ink Blot for another speed build video. Ink Blot is my all black and white Kidcore island and today we're building a rock concert for the best mouse in Animal Crossing. This was a super fun build to create, so let's get right into it. Before we get started on the build, I want to give a big shout out to Fleurs here on YouTube. I was so inspired by her main stage build that she did on her music festival island, so definitely check her out. I have her video of the main stage build and her socials linked in the description box below. But to start this build, I made a big block of terraforming and I'm covering it with an all black wooden deck code, and this will be the actual stage for a rock concert. I got this code just for this build, but I have been able to use it on some other builds on this island so far, and that's nice because sometimes you really have to stretch the use of your limited design space. Next up, we're adding 2 of the stage lights in the white variant to the very front of the stage. This way you can see the performers even if it's dark outside, and can we take a moment to appreciate that this item actually gives off a light ray? It's such a small but cute detail. And then on each side of the stage lights I'm adding a floor monitor because I think that's something that you would see in the front of a stage. And then I'm setting up the actual musical equipment, and for this I was going for a rock band feeling, so of course we have our silver mic, and then an electric guitar, and electric bass, and then finally a big drum set. And these spots are just temporary for now. Throughout the build I kind of shimmy them around to fit the space a little bit better. To fill up a little bit more space and make the stage seem more technical, I'm adding an amp on the one side, which I assume the guitar would be plugged into, and then on the other side I'm adding an effects rack, and I did go for the white variants for both of these items so they stand out more compared to the black decking. And then to add a little bit of spice to the front of the stage, I'm adding a stage flame machine on both sides. This just seems like something you would have to have at a rock concert. To get that industrial or metal and tarp kind of look that a lot of outdoor concert stages have, I'm adding a few of the construction scaffoldings to both sides of the stage. And I'm placing them in a spread out L format, that way you can walk between them to actually get to the stage, because I do want this to be accessible when you come to visit the island. For the back of the stage, I wanted to block off the view of the ocean, so I'm first adding a line of the curtain partitions that I customized, and for this I actually used the gray tile code that I've been using on the ground around my island, and I think it looks really good as the curtains because it's a similar shade to the gray on the tarps for the construction scaffolding. For the back of the stage area, I wanted there to be multiple layers because the outdoor stages that you see at festivals are pretty tall, so to get that height effect I'm building up a cliff behind our layer of curtains. After covering the cliff with more of our black deck code, I'm adding another layer of our curtains right behind the row on the bottom level, and this is when we really start to see the height for this build. And then behind the curtains to get that lighting effect that concerts have, we're going to be adding 4 of the stadium lights across the back part of the terraform cliff. 2 will be behind the curtains, and then 2 will be on the little pieces of the cliff that are sticking out to the sides. I like having the lights staggered like this with the ones on the sides being slightly behind the others because it gives our build a little bit more dimension since this is a pretty square build. Then right in the middle on the very back of the cliff, I'm adding a storage shed. You won't be able to see this when you're on the stage, but I'm just adding this to lift up our 2 bubble machines so that the bubbles will come out of the top of the curtains. To cover the cliff edge on the sides, I'm placing a backwards facing construction scaffolding. And I did try this in 2 different spots on each side, and I ended up going with the left side where the scaffolding was pushed all the way against the cliff. And then for some final details to our stage, in the back corner by the curtains, I'm adding a studio spotlight to bring in more of that lighting detail, and then in the front of the stage next to our flames, I'm adding a vertical banner that I customized with the music note pattern. And I did just want to mention that I freehanded that music note and I think I did a pretty good job. To add a little more chaos to our stage, I'm adding some more bubble machines and I'm putting them behind the amp and the effects rack to try to hide them. And now that our main stage is done, I'm going to start working on the second half of this build, which is the audience section. To start, I'm outlining the seating section with a gray tile code, and I think this just helps to make the area a little bit more defined. I will be adding a path on either side of the seating area, so this just helps to separate the two. For the codes underneath the seats, I first tried to use a smaller multicolored tile code that I created, but I felt like the color was too close to the color of the plastic benches that I was using, and I really wanted to keep the white seats because we will be placing some black items in front of the cliff in a minute, so I think the black chairs would disappear into the background too much, so I really wanted to keep the white chairs, so instead I ended up changing the ground to these black tile codes, and this way you can definitely see the chairs more clearly. As for the seating for the audience, I went with these plastic benches. I was initially wanting to use the lecture hall benches because they look more like the seats that you would find in a theater, but unfortunately they didn't come in a grayscale version, they only had shades of brown. So instead I went with these benches and I think they work great for this area. Then it was time to cover the edge of the cliff, and I don't know why seeing the cliff edge bothers me so much, but I always feel the need to completely hide it. So for this build, each of the corners I'm using one of the gray construction scaffoldings turned around, and I like that it layers nicely with the scaffolding on top of the cliff as well. And then the hardest part of this build was finding something to cover the front of the cliff without covering the stage. I tried a few different items like simple panels or more of the curtain partitions, but those were both slightly too tall and covered some of the stage, so I landed on these face cutout standees. I just made one that was completely black, and then I lined the whole front of the cliff with one layer, and then I made a second layer in front of that one that was slightly off-center to cover the holes. To add some more realistic touches, I added some tall speakers to both sides, and then I lined the front between the face cutout standees and the benches with the safety railings. To me, this looks like the barriers that they have at concerts that prevent people from rushing the stage, and luckily they only take up half a tile in width, so you can still get close enough to the stage to get a good view of the whole build. Like I said a little bit ago, I wanted to have a pathway up to the stage on either side of the audience, so to start this process I'm laying down some of the light dirt pathing, and I'm doing this just because I want the walkways to be visible on the map, but a little later on they will be completely covered with some of the gray tiles. And then to meet up with our walkway, I'm also adding 2 more tiles wide worth of cliff on both sides of the stage. And then to fully separate the concert's audience from the walkways and from the street, I'm fencing the area off with some of the white iron fencing. I've used some of this fence in the black version on our overlook and other parts of our island, but for this build I decided to go with the white version because I thought it blended in a little bit better, and I didn't want the fencing to be a main focal point of this build. That might be overthinking it a little bit, but I wanted to share my reason why I'm using the white version. For the entrance, I wanted it to look a little bit more grand, so I'm layering a plain party lights arch with 2 vertical banners in front of the new fences. And then the area between the back of the benches and the fencing was looking a little empty, so I thought this was a good spot for a couple merchandise tables. So here you can buy some shirts with the music note logo, and then the other table I added a pedal board for some reason, and a little carrier case maybe for some snacks during the show. Then I finally added our 2 inclines to both sides of the stage, and then I continued the fencing on the other side of the walkways to completely enclose the sidewalk. And I'm making both of these walkways look like little secret side streets for the VIP areas, and this will be where you can access the stage. And then again, to cover the cliff edge, I'm lining both sides of the stage with the large fence item in the black version. I also like that this item is on the taller side, so it kind of works as a guardrail for when you're on the stage as well. Back up on the stage, I wanted to completely block off the view of the ocean and the edge of the stage, so I'm lining the back wall with more construction scaffoldings turned around. I'm also thinking of adding more items to the sides of the stage for the VIP areas, but I'm not sure what should go there, because I'm thinking for Bella's house I either want it to be a merchandise shop for the show, or to have it look like the VIP section where you get to meet the artists after the show, so let me know what you think in the comments I should add to the sides of the stage, if anything. And then this wouldn't be a rock concert without rock music, so I'm adding a tape deck on both sides of the stage, hidden in the construction scaffolding to play some music, and I thought KK Rock was the most fitting. And of course I had to turn it all the way up. And here's the final build. But that's the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. Before you leave, make sure you give the video a like, comment, and to subscribe to the channel. If you watched to the end of the video, let me know who you saw in your first concert. I saw Hannah Montana when I was in 5th grade. Bye, friends! And a huge thank you to all of the channel members. If you want to join the channel, make sure to hit that join button down below.